we are down to the final 50. What is good, everybody? Welcome into DTL Golf. We're here every single Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. We apologize. Some of you like to watch on Twitter. They're having some issues, so we are unable to stream that live right now. But those of you here on YouTube, thank you very much. Now, I am the coach, and we're down to, well, I guess 3 episodes. We will do a President's Cup episode, but this week and the next week is the Tour Championship. Speaking of tech issues, well, we were going to have 2 of my guys, and right now we have 1, but he is a very big one. Let's bring him right now. He's one of the best. Steve Scott, my partner at PGA Tour Live and right here at DTL Golf. Hello, sir. How are you this week?
I am doing awesome. I mean, we're coming down to the nitty-gritty right now. We only got 50 players left, going to be coming down to 30, and we're in Denver this week. So cool. Ball's going to go really far. Can't wait to see how this plays out this week at Castle Pines.
We'll talk all about Castle Pines in a couple of minutes. RD is still trying to get connected. If it works, his Wi-Fi, they can be testy every now and then. He'll join the show, hopefully here in just a couple of minutes. All right, so before we look forward, we've got to look back because it kind of sets the stage, Steve, for what we're facing this week. And I was on the call at the St. Jude. What an exciting finish, and in several different ways. I thought the race for 50 was really, really cool. So let's start there. You had the likes of Max Gresserman. You had Tom Kim. You had Cam Davis, who was literally in tears after a double bogey on the final hole that he thought was going to knock him out. Ryder Cup captain Keegan Bradley, flip-flop, flip-flop, flip-flop. What did you make of that race for that top 50 spot, which is so important when you talk about what these guys get?
Well, what they get, I mean, the top 50 get into the signature events next year. Yep. The elevated purses, everything goes on when you're inside the top 50. 51, well, you're going to have to scratch and claw a little bit more, a lot more, actually. You got to feel for a guy like Tom Kim. I mean, he's gone through a lot, played so many weeks in a row this year. I mean, 9 weeks in a row at one point towards the end of the season. Was heartbroken at the Olympics and didn't medal to kind of avoid the military service that he has to go through there in Korea. But that was, I mean, Tom Kim finished 6-6-6. Devilish finish for Tom Kim, 51st. It was just really painful to watch that, actually.
It really, really was. Then on the other flip side of that, you had the top of the leaderboard. And early in the season, you had Viktor Hovland, who's our defending FedEx Cup champion. And he was talking about how golf isn't that much fun right now. He hasn't been playing that well, barely got into the top 70. Then at one point on Sunday afternoon, Steve, he had the lead when Hideki went backwards. But ultimately, Hideki with a fill-in caddy, birdie 17, 30-footer, birdies 18, wins, goes from 8 to 3. And now when you look at the numbers this week as far as winning, Hovland, great number, Hideki, really good number. But these guys are the ones playing the best. And, let's not forget about Xander, a final round 63 for a top 3 finish for him too.
What Hideki did last week, I thought was pretty remarkable. I mean, he had that 3-4 shot lead, and you thought he was just going to kind of cruise to victory, and all of a sudden, it just kind of turned around on him. Then he has to birdie the very difficult 17th hole. I mean, nobody was doing anything there. And then 18 to come down there, pipe a drive right down the middle, iron shot inside 10 feet, and just bury it and put the exclamation point on it. Hideki showed me a lot of what was inside of him, especially with his regular caddy who got his passport stolen in London recently and couldn't make the trip. So I thought that was pretty remarkable. It really, I think he kind of probably took a lot of ownership of his game this week, maybe more so than he has done in the past. Hideki's doing a lot of good stuff. I know Fast Eddie's been working with him on his speed and all that stuff. So really cool stuff to see him kind of rebound there and get that done. And Viktor Hovland, he was just, he wasn't talking a great game earlier in the week, but he played a great game come Sunday.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And as we head into this week, we'll see how – look who just made it in.
Can't keep me down.
You can't keep him down. Ladies and gentlemen, the world famous Robert Damron. And Robert, the over-under on pounds lost last week for you in Memphis was 18. Where do we fall on that?
It was all water weight. It was pretty damn close. I mean, I was pouring the sweat, but I put it back on. Coach, as I told the people I was working with on air, hydration starts the night before. You got to be hydrated the night before. So I was sure to order extra ice in my Manhattans at the bar. because that way I was being very responsible.
So I probably shouldn't tell this story right now, but my partner, Steve, this week was Daniel Chopra. Daniel Chopra is also a member and has lived forever at Bay Hill. And so we were talking about working out and things like that. And I go, yeah. I said, RD. I said, look at him. He looks great. Looks like he's been in the gym. You know, I think he's hanging out a lot at Bay Hill. He looks at me and goes, Coach, he goes, he's hanging out a lot at Bay Hill. But in the gym at Bay Hill, the bar, now that's a different story. Oh, I was calling the guy. I said, that sounds right on brand. And look what you just did right there. Hilarious. So real quick, we've gotten Steve's take on last week and then heading into this week, but you were there. Kind of give me a synopsis on the guys that you saw in person that you think will translate well to Elevation, Colorado. Xander Schauffele made it a point to talk about fitness, and you were there. Kind of take us through what you saw.
Well, if you're going to talk about translating into Denver, you want to go with the thinner guys, not a couple guys that are softer around the middle. I didn't pick any Shane Lowry this week, guys like that. Just a little too tough up there at altitude. But the heat last week was incredible. It really was. The play was awesome on both sides. I mean, we had the tournament, of course, we were playing for, and the big win that Hideki got. But the story inside the story, of course, was the bubble, the top 50. And we had a little bit of volatility there, a lot of great rounds. Our man Eric Cole played unbelievable on Sunday to slide in there and get in the top 50. So, I think that we're getting into that such upper echelon in the top 50 players that, picking long shots, I thought this week was kind of tough because there really aren't any long shots. What I had to do was pick the guys I think, because the other tournaments didn't count really towards this one. This is a different animal here at Castle Pines. So higher ball flight, iron control, that kind of thing's what I went with this week. But I found, going through this week's tournament, some of the picks, I found it kind of tough because of that extra wrinkle we're throwing in with the altitude and how tough it is physically, not just ball striking, but physically and your cardiovascular work.
Yeah. And Xander was the only guy that I've seen so far that talked about it from a 3-event perspective. So I really like his thought process. I did the PGA Tour's betting show earlier today, a golf bet. And the one thing that they praised me for, other than my dynamic talent work, was that I was able to find some plus money top 20 plays. So I'm going to start with that because, guys, when you have a field of 50, and you have a top 20 play, you only got to beat 30 guys instead of 130 guys. So you can find some really smart plays this week that are plus money. And there's some guys that just are unplayable. I mean, Scotty Scheffler right now, guys, is minus 115 to win the whole damn thing, not just this week. So there's some guys that are unplayable, but you can find some diamonds in the rough. Real quick, looking forward to Steve. There's been a lot of USAMs. We haven't seen this course since the Sprint International years ago. I mean, I was in college, which like 5-6 years ago, when they used to play this event. I followed Ernie Els and Davis Love the third around one summer. But that was a Stableford system. This is not that. What are these players facing on this course as you throw in something that, quite honestly, nobody has seen before?
You're right. I mean, Adam Scott was the only guy on tour. He didn't even play that week back in 2006. So you look at some of the players who have had success here. I mean, Davis Love III, Retief Goosen, and, you get those players that really can strike their golf ball. This is a Jack Nicklaus golf course, and you have to really look at some of those players who played well at places like the Memorial, for example. I think that's a pretty good test right here. And then the elevation game is going to be, you have to look at, who was in the field that played well at the Barracuda Championship, which is a very similar elevation, maybe about 400 or 500 feet less. So it's a similar sort of game. And two players only are in the field that played in the Barracuda recently. That was Nick Dunlap and Max Grazerman. So I've kind of got my eye on them a little bit this week, because when you play at elevation, there's just a lot of things you have to factor in. I mean, Wyndham Clark said this week, he says, if you see us airmail a green by 10 or 15 yards, it's not because we're bad. It's because it's just that difficult. And he's a Denver native, by the way. So he would know pretty well. What's going on there?
I was texting with Grazerman, who I've become very friendly with the last year or so, and I just told him how proud I was of the finish he had, 63 Sunday, to barely get into the top 50 after blowing what would have been his first PGA Tour win last week at the Wyndham. And his response to me was this: I'm proud of myself because now I get into all the signature events, top 50. I don't have to worry about anything. After all the hard work, I'm proud of myself. I thought, RD, that was a pretty good response.
No, I think that's a wonderful response, but the hard work doesn't stop just because you got into all the signature events and the majors and you got a top 50. It starts anew, but I too thought that showed so much guts after, getting right there and then having a really bad first round. It could have been very easy to just throw the towel in, but he's just not cut out of that cloth. He kept trying, kept grinding. Fought for every point, being quadruple points last week especially. He fought for every point. And then, again, I mentioned Eric Cole, Max Grazerman, both 63s on Sunday to play their way in by the skin of their teeth. It's just kind of next-level stuff. It's just things that people, normal golfers, don't quite understand how hard that is under that kind of pressure.
And the last thing I will say to your point about those two 63s, I really took some offense, and I love Scotty Scheffler, but I'm going to call a spade a spade. And I'm so tired of some of these golfers, because it's an individual sport, that say, oh, it doesn't value the regular season because it doesn't. Really, Scotty? Last week, there was a scenario that if everything would have fallen correctly, he would have already wrapped up the #1 seed for the Tour Championship. He could have not shown up this week, and that valued his regular season. Playoffs are a different animal. Do you think the Chiefs, when they make it as a #1 seed, don't have to play those games to win a Super Bowl? You still got to play. He has an advantage every single week. So when he said it was silly how they set it up, I took offense to that. It's a different system when you're putting playoffs at the end, not like the old days. The old days, sure, Scotty, you're going to win it. We're going to hand it to you. But that's not how it works now. And oh, by the way, that's why FedEx gives you $20 million to win the damn thing. How about that? All right, gentlemen. We've got 5 different categories we like to get into. And we've got a lot of people out there in the DTL golf universe. They need some instant gratification. We like to call that first round leaders. So, Steve Scott, I'm looking at you, and these are the weeks in limited fields that you can find some really good numbers on some bigger names because the books want to spread it out. Where are you starting?
I'm going to start with a couple guys who have played well at elevation already and already have victories at elevation, both at the Barracuda Championship. Colin won a Barracuda in 2019. Akshay won it in 2023. I just think there's a different skill set when you're trying to figure out how far the ball is going. The trajectories that you hit the golf ball, the higher you hit it, the farther it goes. So if you're factoring, let's say 10% that the ball is going to go farther than you usually play it, if you hit it even higher than a traditional, shot, the ball is going to carry even farther than that. So all those little nuances, and vice versa. If you hit a trajectory lower, it's going to go a little shorter. All those little nuances are going to play into who's going to play well this week. But for Colin Morikawa, he's played very well on Nicklaus golf courses. He's got 2 of his 6 victories on Nicklaus courses, one at the Concession down in Florida, and then at Muirfield Village as well. So I like where his game is at right now on Nicklaus courses in his career. 2 victories, 5 top 4s, and 7 top 10s. So he likes the way it fits his game. Nicklaus courses tend to favor maybe the left to right player than the right to left player. So keep that in mind as well. Akshay Bhatia, plus 3,500. He's got that victory, like I said, at elevation. And one thing I looked at this week was the spin rate that the PGA Tour players have. I really favored, in most of my picks this week, favored players who were in the positive side of the in the spin rate category on the PGA Tour, better than, let's say, 100th if they categorize 200 players, let's say. So Akshay 76th in spin rate on the PGA Tour, which is going to be very important because the more spin you can create, the better you're going to be able to stop the ball in the green, just because of how the aerodynamics play into playing the ball at elevation. So there's a lot that goes into the factoring of the shots here. And I like both of these players with their success at elevation already.
Oh, my God, Steve, you just gave me PTSD. I had one hole in the afternoon last week, and it was a par 5, and Daniel Chopra every groove. Oh, the spin rate. It factors the ball from 225 yards. Oh,
Yeah.
oh my God.
It's gonna play effect this week, big time.
It absolutely will. All over the course, not just on one par 5.
Yeah, true.
Thank you,
True.
Steve. All right, so those are the first 2 for Steve. Now, coming over to you, RD, and I continue to believe in Justin Thomas. He got up to a good start last week, 367, and then went backwards. Why do you think he gets off to a good start this week, sir?
Well, just, past history, exactly. As a matter of fact, is why I do. You look at his last 4 opening rounds, 68, 62, 68, 67. This is a course, Steve went next level with the spin rate stuff. I didn't go that deep, but this is a course that even if it weren't at altitude, even if it were sea level, I would really put a big asterisk by control of the irons, height of the irons, because it's so uphill and downhill. You can have 150-yard shots that play 10 yards uphill and vice versa. So controlling your irons is imperative. And then add in that 10% as far as the ball is flying goes, and that's just going to make it that much tougher. And so more important to control the irons. Outside of Scheffler, Thomas is arguably the best, if not definitely one of the best iron players / wedge players there is. So given the fact that he's played so well in the first rounds lately, not closing the show, there's something good, something bad in there, but we're talking first round. And speaking of closing the show, how about 63-63 final round the last 2 weeks for Eric Cole? That is, well, it shows guts, frankly. It shows guts to do it in the final round, especially in those situations. But also, you're playing well. Something is right. Something is going to translate from just final round into the other rounds. He's had some good opening rounds, too. He did have a 62 at John Deere and at plus 4,500. I think that's just a really good bet coming off such good low numbers that he's been shooting. And you know what else is funny about the 4 picks, my 2 and Steve Scott's 2? Not an ounce of body fat on any of them. So that'll help on that first round.
You're damn right. And for anybody that's never been to this golf course, there is literally a hole between every hole. It is the most, you're cutting it out of a mountain anyway. It was the hardest walk I've ever had. And I was 21 at the time. Hardest walk I've ever had as a fan. I like that idea. The other thing I wanted to point out too, when you get off to a fast start, do you guys agree, Steve, that if you find somebody from 40 down, they've got to just start from the jump. They got to be aggressive, because if they don't, other than maybe losing some money in the individual tournament, they've got to jump 10 or more spots to get to the Tour Championship, which is the Shangri-La. So you could have guys, Max, Eric Cole's in that category, that has to come out and start fast and shoot at pins. Is that correct? Would you agree with that?
100%. It's do or die. It's play well or go home. And a lot of these people, you really have to look at where they are in the FedEx Cup race. If they're kind of comfortably inside that top 30, they don't have as much to worry about this week, although they love to get in that top 5 to be in control of their destiny at East Lake. But when you get outside of that top 30, you're looking at players who are, you're going to take some risks. And I think, with the elevation change and the distance control these players are going to have to show this week, it's going to be very challenging for them to play aggressively, but then to not look silly and hit one way short, hit one way long. These Nicklaus greens all sit on angles, so your line and your distance has to be spot on this week.
Boy, that's what Jack Nicklaus loves. He loves those angled greens, trying to figure out a defense when maybe there isn't one just right there. Let's move on, RD, to what we like to call our bread and butter. If you are a $100 bettor, this is what we recommend. You put a full unit size on. It's head-to-head. You only got to beat one other guy. You have 3 names, and I'm going to be honest with you. I like one. And I'm going to explain why, but after you give them to me, because I would love to hear your expertise, sir.
I'm going to guess which one you like. And first, I'm going to win you over on Morikawa versus McIlroy. I don't think that's one you like. McIlroy really, in a way, should be favored on a course like this because of his power. He hits it much higher than Morikawa. He hits it much farther than Morikawa. It's a big, long golf course, even before the 10% or after the 10%. But he controls his short irons way better than does Rory McIlroy. He controls his middle irons as far as distance control, as far as direction. Way better than McIlroy. I like power players this week, but I think the glaring difference in control of their short irons is the reason I'm going with Collin Morikawa this week. He doesn't have the power to overpower this course the way Rory does. Also, by the way, Rory finished in the bottom 3 last week, was kind of spinning his wheels, did not play very well at all. Cam Young over Rye, you probably don't like this one either. I think just because we've made a lot of money on Aaron Rye this year. This whole season, we've bet him quite a few times, and he has done us proud a lot of times. He's just such a solid, good golfer. He does control his irons, but they're shorter, they're flatter. He doesn't putt as well. He's not driving it as long as big, mighty Cam Young. So I am taking the length and height off the tee and with the irons on Cam Young because the discrepancy in their control of the short irons isn't as bad. Rye's a little better, but he's not way better. I think Morikawa is way better than McIlroy. The one you love, Justin Thomas, as an underdog, plus 110 over Russell Henley. Same thing, higher, better iron player. And Russell likes the Bermuda greens a lot. These aren't. So I don't think this is going to be his cup of tea. And JT's been trying to play better, but maybe this is the week we put it together. How right am I?
RD, we've been such good friends for so long. I really feel like, we've taken another step in our relationship here in 2024. But right now, I feel like you don't know me at all. I feel like you really don't get me. I'll make it quick. I watched Colin play with Rory last week, and Rory was terrible. Cam Young's dead to me. I had him in a head-to-head Sunday over Jordan Spieth. I was up 4 shots with 4 to play. He finished plus 6 coming home, and I pushed because Spieth was just that bad. The one I do love is Morikawa over McIlroy. I think Henley's been playing great. He's a bulldog. He's a top 20 guy, but he also falls into the category that Steve talked about, where he wants to protect that spot because he is already in the Tour Championship. So the one I love is Morikawa over McIlroy. But I don't hate all of them. I'm just trying to create content, big boy. You know that. All right, let's come over to you because there's, depending on the book, you have different matchups, and you do like Aaron Rye this week, Steve, but over a guy that RD is fading. Interesting enough. Give me your 2.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll start right there. I mean, Aaron Rye, I like the form that he is on right now. He's got the highest spin rate on the PGA Tour. I'm just going to come back to that one because that's very important. 12 of his last 13 events, he's been positive in strokes gain approach. Russell Henley, definitely a lower spin rate. It's not awful. He's 59th on tour. But Henley, most importantly, is half a shot lower in the strokes gain total category than Aaron Rye. So Rye's got the advantage there. Rye is better in off the tee numbers and strokes gain approach as opposed to Henley. And Henley, these are bent grass greens. Like RD said, I think Bermuda grass greens are his specialty. So I definitely like Rye there at the minus 105 number. Corey Connors over Billy Horschel. I think it's just a fact of where he is on the FedEx Cup list right now. He's 33rd. He has to have a good week. The mission is very clear for Corey Connors right now. And, oh, by the way, he's 7th in the President's Cup international team standings. The top 6 automatically get picked. You would think that being a Canadian, the President's Cup in Canada, that it would kind of be a given. And there's 3 other Canadians kind of right behind him as well that are probably going to be pulling on his coattails as well. But Corey Connors, I really like where he's at right now. He's such a consistent player. Billy Horschel is 19th in the FedEx Cup race. He is not going to have any worries this week. He's going to play pretty relaxed. He's definitely in East Lake, but he's going to have a hard time getting, into that top 5 or the, towards that number 1 position. I just like where Corey Connors is in his game right now. And his iron control, I think, is superior. I mean, he's always in the top echelon of the PGA Tour as far as iron control, trajectory control, which is going to be hugely important this week.
There's going to be some heartbreak hotel for the President's Cup when you talk about those Canadians, because to be even more specific, Steve, there's 4 guys between 10 and 13. It goes Corey Connors at 7, then 8 and 9 is somebody else, and then 10, 11, 12, 13, 4 guys there. Yep. Somebody's going to be on the outside looking in. Can you imagine Mike Weir, RD, having to call Mackenzie Hughes who did not make it to this week and say, sorry, pal, the one time we're in your country, you're not going to get to play. That's going to be hard.
It is going to be hard, but that, Mackenzie Hughes for the second year in a row found himself just on the outside looking in after Memphis. So he doesn't want to break any Canadians' hearts, but he's going to have to. But, I mean, there's a real chance he picks 4 of them, including McKenzie, including Pendrith, and then, of course, for sure, if they don't finish in, Connors and Taylor, they're getting picks. Forget it. If they're not in, they're getting a pick. But
Adam Hadwin. Hadwin's right ahead of he's right ahead of Hughes.
Oh, yeah, he might get that ugly call, too. You know what? I guarantee you Mike Weir can get him tickets just to come hang out. Guarantee it.
5 guys between 7 and 13 that are Canadians. If you guys watch Full Swing, you'll remember when Zach Johnson had to call Keegan Bradley, who ironically enough is now the Ryder Cup captain. That was one of the hardest parts of Full Swing I ever had to watch. I mean, that was like heartbreaking. Mm-hmm. All right, moving on. Category number 3. This is what we call finishing position. And this one this week, Steve, very, very fascinating and interesting. Because with only 50 guys, you got to be very, very careful at the number, which is going to be different than what we would normally see. So you've kind of stayed with the top 10 and the top 20 market. Take me through what you got.
Yeah, I focused a little bit more on that top 20. And again, the including ties like we've had the last few weeks, very important because that's going to add a couple players in that number, and you don't have that dead heat reduction that we all hate. So very important there. Max Grazerman, I like the way he's playing right now. You've outlined it, 63 on Sunday. Awesome playing there. I mean, he's gained 1.87 strokes on ball striking and over 3 shots on the greens in the final round in Memphis. So his game is right on point. He's only one of 2 players in this field that have played the Barracuda Championship. The elevation thing is very important. He tied for 13th at Barracuda, by the way, so he played very well. He's got a good understanding of what the golf ball does at elevation. But let's get into the focus on the top 10s because, I mean, this is the top 20% of the field right here. You can get inside the top 10. You can make a little cheese right here this week. I got Aaron Rai for those reasons I mentioned earlier at plus 250. I really like where his game is at. I feel like he's going to be in the top 20% of the field here. Corey Connors, a really solid player, just with those irons and all of those factors that we listed. Wyndham Clark, here's a guy you definitely need to have your eyes on this week. If it's not top 10, I think he's going to do better. His game is trending really, really well. And he's estimated he's played this golf course at Castle Pines 25, 30 times over the years. They haven't had this tournament here, so nobody else is going to really have a lot of experience on this golf course. And Wyndham Clark, very high spin rate player as well on the PGA Tour. So at 64 on Sunday last week in a top 10 finish. So his game is trending. He's going to an area that this is home. This is his DNA in golf in Denver, understanding what happens at elevation. So I really like his opportunity this week.
Very nice. Did we get through all 4 of those? You went through all 4?
Yep.
Connors?
Yeah, we talked about the others, so I kind of I glanced over them. They're playing really well.
A few things going on as a host. You know what I mean? I got to trust you. I mean, you're my backup. I mean, I got to trust you.
I got you, man.
All right. For some reason, I'm really, really gritty on Gresserman. I love the Wyndham Clark pick. People forget from the first round at the Olympics since then, boy, he's been playing great golf. Great freaking golf. All right, RD, leave it to you to kind of throw a top 5 out there, top 10. But wait a second, Steve. Look what RD's got, a little top 5 parlay. I'm in for that.
Tasty.
Let's go.
Yeah, threw a little monkey wrench here in our positions, finishing positions bet. Let's start with the top 10s. Tom Hoagie, of course, one of the best iron players on tour. Statistically, 3rd, actually, if you look at his stats. Controlling his irons on tour, that means a lot. Now, he did finish tied for 3rd at Hartford, but he's been struggling a little with his finishes. That's why I'm only going top 10. Plus 500, pretty good odds on a top 10. Same with Pavon. He doesn't quite have the distance off the tee for me to go, let's look at the top 5. But he controls his irons nicely, and I thought, he's had – the top 10s he's had have been in very big events, U.S. Open, Pebble, there are a couple others, obviously. And then also – not quite the power to have me say, yeah, I like top 5 also. I like plus 750 a lot at Matthew Pavon at top 10. Then we slide over to the top fives. A little more powerful, a little more iron play centric, let's say, and also a couple college roommates from Wake Forest.
Oh.
Wilbur Zalatoris, who he's been struggling, but he did tie for 12th last week. You got to take Scheffler out. Scheffler's the best on tour. There's not even a chance anyone has a claim to that as far as iron play. After that, Will Zalatoris has a claim to maybe being right there among the elite. Since the back surgery, maybe not quite as sharp, but definitely that's the bread and butter of his game. So at plus 900, a top 5 bet, okay, let's put a little sprinkle. And then Cameron Young, I'm liking that distance, power, control. I did, with my own eyes, watch the 59 he shot at Hartford. So maybe I'm slightly biased because I know how good he can be when he's on. But he ended up finishing 9th there, 6th at Rocket Mortgage. So yeah, pretty good odds there at plus 650. Now, plus 3,500 for Wyndham Clark for all the same reasons that Steve just mentioned. Playing great, loves this place. He can trust everyone else. Everyone else in the field is going to have to trust their yardage book. He can trust his instincts. If he feels like this is a 6-iron or 7-iron cut flatter, he can trust that because he's played there so many times. He's so much more adept at altitude than everyone else in the field. And Sam Burns, I mean, the guy's been playing fantastic. He actually told me last week he's so close to playing great if he can just get out of his own way. He goes, everything's good. I'm just making a quad here or a double finish here and messing things up. So I think just the parlay top 5 at you put $10 on it and you walk away with 350. Oh, it's worth it.
Or he's snapping his driver on the front 9 and has to play the back 9 without. That could affect his scoring on long holes too.
It happened. Well, I assume he's found another driver since then.
That's true. Yeah. Now, he did have the image of the week holding Scotty Scheffler's new child on the 17th. Their house was right there and holding him up like Mufasa.
Yeah.
What the hell are we doing? Or Simba. Yeah.
One is
It was Mufasa, wasn't it? Or was it Simba?
Well,
Simba.
One was holding one, and Simba's the baby, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. It's crazy. Sometimes they're best of friends, and they have kids that are, a month apart? 3 weeks apart? Less than that. Oh. Oh, some guys' lives are really, really good. And those two, not bad. Not bad. I love that top 5 parlay. All right, we got 2 more categories to get to, including a category that we dominated at the Wyndham Championship. We're going to get to the winners, but first, DTL Golf is brought to you by, less than 2 weeks away from Reagan, the movie.
Welcome to your life.
You can run from a bully for so long,
There's no
but after a while, you're going to have to stand up to him.
What did the president know, and when did he know it?
I am about to start the biggest war of this century.
You told me you wanted to make a difference in this world.
What would you have me do?
I want you to fight!
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Wants to rule the world.
And the last time we picked a winner, it was Aaron Rye, who fought to the finish. Now, Sites 501. Sometimes you got to be a little bit patient, big boy. He says, no Nick Dunlap love, frowny face, sad face. Oh, stop it. Steve Scott, take care of our boy.
I'm going to give him some love. He was getting no love last week. Plus 20,000 to win last week on the books. Made it all the way to the final group on Sunday with Hideki and almost won the golf tournament. Lost by 4. Tied for 5th, though. Kudos to Nick for jumping up into that top 50 to get to play this week. Again, nothing to lose this week. And this is a guy who is just, he fights the odds. I'm going to tell you a quick story about Nick Dunlap. Last year, about this time, well, actually last September, not even a full year ago, he was an amateur golfer. He was playing in the Walker Cup at the Old Course at St. Andrews, where the ladies are actually playing their major this week at the Open. But in front of the R&A Clubhouse, the 18th hole at the Old Course at St. Andrews, Nick Dunlap showed me he had so many stones. And he just stepped up there. He had an 8-footer. He was 3 down with 5 to play in this match, by the way, and had an 8-footer on the 18th hole at the Home of Golf, where all of the champion golfers of the year have been crowned, and everybody who's been great has gone through that moment. He stepped up there and buried an 8-footer to tie the match and help the U.S. make a huge comeback on Sunday. And it was just an unbelievable moment in the game. I'm standing right off the green, and I witnessed it with my own 2 eyes. It was so large. And so anything that he does this week would not surprise me at all. And he's won twice, as we know, once as an amateur and once as a professional. And by the way, his professional win, you all know where it was? The Barracuda Championship at Elevation. I'm going back to the Elevation thing. So very, very important that you understand that he gets the Elevation. I think this is going to be a great week for Nick Dunlap. It's a winner-go-home mentality, and he's a winner.
I will help you with your Elevation storyline, Steve Scott. Didn't he play the U.S. Am and do very well at a little place called Cherry Hills?
Called Cherry Hills.
Where is that
Absolutely.
place at, by chance?
Right down the street.
Right down the street. Interesting.
Castle Pines, yep.
From Castle Pines, huh? Very interesting. By the way, great video. If you haven't seen it yet, last week, because of where he finished, he had no idea. They come up to him. Do you guys see this? They come up to him, and I don't know if it was his dad or an official, somebody. They go, "You're in." He then, almost like in tears, he said it was the most nervous he's ever been playing golf in his life. At one point in that second round, he was up to 11th projected. And then after all those guys went over him, he was down to 47. It was volatile. And then ultimately he makes it. You got it. He might be the best story of the entire year.
Yeah.
When you look at where he started to where he is right now. It's crazy.
I don't think that story's done either.
I don't either. I mean, last year at Christmas, he was worried about what he's going to take back to the dorm in Alabama. And now, now look at this. All right, RD, you always take care of the people. And you've given 3 names, 3 different price points. I love it. Go.
Well, a couple we've already touched on. Wyndham Clark, we know, like I said, I think he trusts his instincts here more than anyone. His game has been coming around, and his last 3 PGA Tour events, not including the Open. He didn't play well there, but that's a throwaway. It was so different. Tie 9th, tie 10th, and tie 7th. So he's playing really nice golf. Sam Burns, yes, he broke his driver last week. So what? Who doesn't get pissed once in a while on the golf course? We all do it. You feel a little silly. You go get a new shaft and you start over next week. It's probably not the first, and I guarantee it won't be the last club he ever breaks on tour. But again, avoid those big numbers because remember, this was Stableford. You can't go and freewheel the way it used to. Not that Sam Burns played back then, but this is stroke play. It's going to be different. It's going to be cool to watch. Avoid the big numbers, and he is playing very nicely. And then you've got the big Swede, Ludwig Åberg. I watched him. I interviewed him on the range last week. I watched him. Watching that ball flight, I just could not pick him for this golf course. I just could not. The ball flies so pure. It's so high. He's so long, effortless, skinny, of course, which pisses me off. But he's skinny. He's not going to be out there huffing and puffing like everybody else. And he plays well in the big events, Coach. He plays 5th at Memorial, 2nd at Pebble, 8th at Players, 2nd at the Masters. So he doesn't really have a choke factor. So get him in there, get him near the lead on Sunday. He'll go.
And if I'm a slow player, go watch Ludwig. I've never seen maybe Snedeker, but he steps in and hits like almost in one motion. Like, it's crazy.
Love it.
Love it. Love it. By the way, and I apologize publicly, RD, because last week I know you're trying to be a professional. You're trying to work on the grounds. You're working for the PGA Tour. You're a star. And then you got a stalker named Daniel Greer, DG, who's trying to track you down. And he's in the chat right now. He goes, man, I got to meet. So you can't even write correctly, DG. To meet that stud of a man, RD, this last week. How was that interaction for you?
He was impressed. I could see tears welling up in his eyes. The fear, a little shaking. He was clearly saw this beefcake of a man and was a little intimidated, but he did come up and say hi. It was nice meeting him. I didn't get to spend much time with him. Obviously, you got a job to do. And I'm a professional above all else, Coach.
You got to follow Scotty and Xander or hang around, talk to GG. It's one of those. You know what I mean? All right. 5th and final category. We call this the long shot category. This is where we put everything that doesn't fit into anything else. And normally, plus 5,000 or higher is a lonely place to be. But when you have a limited field, the books have to give you some, or else people are going to load up on the big boys, and that's how the books lose. So, RD, let me come over to you. You've got 3 different numbers, all north of at least plus 8,000. Explain yourself.
Well, yeah, like there are no real long shots. No one in this field is going to shake up the world if they win, or surprise anyone. It's a small field, even way more so next week. There's only 30 in the field, but I'm sure we'll find some long shots there. Keegan Bradley, he won this tournament in Aronimink. That doesn't mean anything, but we know what a great golfer he is and how many, great wins and how he closed it off. Awesome iron player, high ball hitter at plus 8,000. Siwoo Kim is maybe the most underrated tee to green talent on the PGA Tour. Nobody talks about it. Nobody is like, oh, yeah, he hits it so pretty. He hits a lot of fairways. As a matter of fact, he hits more fairways than anyone on tour, and he hits some just gorgeous iron shots. He gets a little hot under the collar. Not the best putter, but when he's on, we know exactly what he can do. He can win golf tournaments. Tom Hoge, again, straight iron play, just one of the absolute best on the PGA Tour. If something kicks in this week, at plus 10,000, those are good odds, Coach.
He is the king of the quiet finish.
Yes.
Because when you look at his number and I go, man, was he close? No. Was he? No. You don't really think about Tom Hoge, but man, that number is really, really nice, which means he's had some really good finishes. All right, Steve Scott, you like Hoge, but you also like a guy that had a quiet, really good finish a week ago. You're up.
Yeah, definitely. Hoagie's kind of sandwiched in there on the bottom, isn't he? But he's third in strokes gained approach this year, so you got to figure that into the equation here at this Nicklaus golf course. Matt Fitzpatrick, though, plus 6,500. He plays well on Nicklaus courses. 2 top 10s at the Memorial in the last 2 years. So it kind of fits his eye, the way Jack likes to shape his golf courses. So Matt, I kind of like where he's at. And, oh, by the way, he's 36th in the FedEx Cup race. And he's got to pick up at least 6 spots if he wants to be around next week at Eastlake. So that do or die mentality, he's got it right in front of him. I think it's time for Matt Fitzpatrick to step right up and see what he can do.
I do too. There's a lot of big-time names that have a lot of really good numbers. And as we wrap things up, we've only got 2 more shows after this one. Tour Championship and then the President's Cup. And then by the time we come back in January, we should be in a lot of places. We just launched today our new partnership with Pantheon Podcasts to be distributed all over the world. Globally, DTL, as of today, is a global brand. We're going to be adding soccer, MMA, and, of course, these boys right here will be all over the world in about 4 months. Final takes as we head into the second playoff event. Steve, let's start with you.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what happens this week. All these guys playing. We're going to see some monster tee shots. I mean, the first hole is a monster par 5, but, I mean, the golf course is the longest PGA Tour course that's ever been played, but it won't play that way. And we're going to see some 380, 90, maybe we'll get a 400-yard drive out of it or more this week. I'm kind of looking forward to those long drives personally.
Yeah, if only somebody on the show was potentially working on a long drive tour to push. If only that was happening. RD, you're up.
Well, I'm so glad DTL is going global because if nothing else, I'm an international talent. International superstar just looks great right on top of RD. That's just what it's meant to be. And also thinking over in Denver, if you got a moment, say a little prayer for the caddies. This is the hardest damn week of the year for them. They're carrying those bags, huffing and puffing, getting numbers. I mean, it is nasty, filthy, and they're going to earn their money this week because it's tough. I played there many, many times. Nearly died on about the 16th hole a couple times, but I wasn't in the condition these guys are.
Can you see RD? He's got the towel around his neck.
Oh,
it's like somebody check on RD.
Oh.
Speaking of that, and you guys would know this better than I. This is the most unique situation maybe that I could think of, meaning earning their money. So I'll start with you, RD. With Hideki's caddy, he missed the tournament, no fault of his own. He had his passport robbed. His agent and business manager, whatever. He also, so they had to go back to Japan because they could get in there. Hideki had his passport. He went on to Memphis. He wins, which normally would be 10% to the caddy, which is what it was for, like $400,000. How do you think Hideki addressed that with him and his personal caddy? What do you think happened?
There's a typical way this is done, but with the Japanese traditions may be different. I don't know. Typically, you give your caddy that 10%. You give, the guy that's caddying for you that week, even if it's not your normal caddy. He earned that. He was there that week. You also give your caddy a little bump. You give him just a little something on the side. Here you go. Thanks. It was an unfortunate situation, but I can't let you sit home and watch me win all this and not reward you a little bit because you've been part of the process that got me to that point. So yeah, it's you get a little percent, maybe 1% or something, but you get a nice little check for it too.
Oh my goodness. Oh, as opposed to 10, we're talking 40,000 instead of 400,000.
400,000.
Give the guy $100,000. You still got 3.5 mil in your pocket. Come on.
Yeah.
And he only eats at Chick-fil-A anyway, so he's not spending that much money.
That was so great. When the guy says, Chick-fil-A is closed on Sunday. Everything was in Japanese until he goes, yes, I know. What? Everything Japanese until, yes, I know. I was like, you've been lying to us forever, Hideki. You have. By the way, his normal caddy, I will put this out there until the day that I die. The coolest photo moment in the history of golf. Do you guys agree? When he
caddy moment for sure.
Out to the course at Augusta National.
1,000,000%.
Right? Yeah. It still gives me chills. If you guys at home haven't seen it, when Hideki won the Masters a couple of years ago, the caddy gets to go out and take the flag.
Yeah.
It's his kind of a tradition. He stops on the green and in Japanese tradition bows to the whole course to say thank you. Oh my God. It was unbelievable. That's worth $100,000 right there. That's worth $100,000 right there. Come on. Boys, appreciate you all year. We got one more week. We'll get there, but thank you for taking the time. It's not lost on me as we continue to grow, so thank you guys. Producer man, thank you for the one shot. It is now time for all you golf fans to go out there and enjoy this one. It's one of the rare weeks on the PGA Tour that you get to see a course that you normally don't get to see. So enjoy it, learn a little something, and at the end of the day, just have some fun. So with all that being said, there's only one thing left to do. And I believe you all know what that is. You got your marching orders. Let's take all of these DTL golf tickets straight to the pay window. Talkers, my man Steve Scott, RD, producer man, always behind the scenes making the show look like $1 million. I am simply the coach. We are here live every single Tuesday during the PGA Tour season at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Until next week, for the final 30, hit them straight and enjoy. I'm the coach. Take care.